If you are in the world, I feel like a million things have happened over the weekend, and there's so much to talk about. It's almost going to be a 4 hour show, but it's not going to be a 4 hour show. Give me a 5 as long as you can. So, to tell me that you can hear me and see me, push this out as much as you can. So, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and sharing is caring, right? The only people getting this message out is you. You should understand, and I think you do as a group of people, that the English have been the most suppressed and oppressed nation, I would say, in the world, right? Certainly on par with the USSR, where we cannot speak about England. The English is shut down on YouTube and all these other platforms. I've been hit so many times, I've lost count, right? Now, there's a number of things that I was going to talk about tonight. One of them is Q and the Q posts from the past that I used to cover quite extensively. And so I think understanding Q and understanding where I'm coming from with Q, where I always said to people, what they're actually doing is training you, don't look here, look here, right? They wasn't telling you this is what's going to happen. They was asking you questions and making you think, right? So I'm going to be briefly covering that. The other thing that people have asked me to try and cover, quite obviously, is King Charles III, or Turd, which way you want to describe him, and what he's actually doing as defender of the faiths. The Constitution is quite clear. The Glorious Revolution is quite clear. The Convention Parliament is quite clear. The Coronation Oath Act is quite clear. And the Convention Parliament had a very deep discussion over the terminology. Did he abscond, meaning the king during that time, or did he abdicate? So everyone wanted the answer to that, and they come up with, and it come from the Lords, House of Lords, that he had abdicated. It wasn't, he didn't abscond, he abdicated because by deed he had perjured his oath in the things that he was doing up to the point that he absconded. And they said the whole thing is an abdication because he had perjured his oath. So there's so much I can talk you through with that, and I will talk you through it. It's knowing where to start, really, because, this, like I say, this could end up being a massive show. Let me just have a quick look and see if I can go onto here. So there was a few things that I actually wrote down. So Prince Charles, Trump, and Q, I was going to cover tonight, and in particular communism, right? They're coming out full blast, and especially President Trump. This communism has to end. It's going to destroy America, and they're going full out now. There's been another massive win in the United States. President Trump won another case in the executive or the presidential office can sack administrators. The, what do we call them over here? Non-governmental NGOs or whatever they're described as over here. So it now means he can clean house, right? So they've won this case, And it means he doesn't need, and just to make sure you're aware, he doesn't need a reason. Not like over it, I'm going to sack you, and this is the reason you was late 3 times this week, or this happened or that happened. President Trump can sack anyone in any element. He can just say, "That's it. You're fired," right? And literally, he can go, you, right? And they can clean it out. So, crucially, if you look at the English, and he's making references, there shouldn't be any communists involved with running the United States of America at all, right? And if you go back and look at the Hailsbury's Laws of England, what does it say at paragraph 1310? Hailsbury's Laws of England, it states that communists and fascists need to be purged from the civil service, and they cannot have any involvement with anything to do with the security of the state, right? That's actually English law. It's actually written in the law books. So again, President Trump is moving forward and pushing forward and starting to put this, what appears to be a plan, into operation to clean out all of this stuff. The not guilty verdict today, I'm going to be briefly covering that, and I've got to make sure I've got these notes on there. Where's my little pad gone? Oh, here it is. It might be better if I write this stuff down here on here. I'm going to write this down because I do want to go through this and make sure it is. So, Prince Charles, Trump and Q stuff, communists. I'm going to try and show you as much of this as I can. They're not guilty. Lady Howe. I'll need to bring something up because I spoke to someone earlier on today. The difference. It's another thing I was going to bring up. Difference between. I'm sick of these people talking about a civil war. And I'm going to talk to you about the difference between a civil war and a defensive war. We're not talking about a civil war. Civil war means we fight each other. We're fighting invaders, and the state has allowed them invaders to get onto our shores, right? That is defensive. That is not a civil war. Anyone talking about civil war is talking absolute nonsense, right? And they're trying to frighten you. That's not what's going to happen. And the last thing that I wanted to talk to you about was someone called Mark Collette. So Mark Collette has had the guy what was the thing called? The film Vigilante, Citizen Vigilante. So Mark Collette, who is on, I don't believe he's on YouTube, but he's on Rumble. Today, I think it was, he actually had the director and producer of Citizen. Let me just write that down again. Citizen Vigilante. The reason I'm writing this down is so I don't forget. Right, so he's had that director on and had a proper discussion with him. I'm seeing lots of people saying he's the main character was Jewish and all that. They covered that off, right? And the bloke who's a director said, listen, when I was 20 years old, I weren't a director. I weren't doing the job I'm doing now, right? And he talks a little bit about himself and his life. And what he's actually saying is, I'll get character. Whoever fits that character, I'll ask them to do it, right? And he said, and that person, I don't care if he's Jewish, I don't care if he's black, I don't care who he is. If he's an actor and he can cover off that part he's going to cover that part off. And he said, I considered him. And he said, that guy had already been cancelled in a number of different situations. And I just thought, I'll ask him if he wants to do it. Right. And he did. So he went all through the different characters. And it was a really good. Has anyone seen this, by the way? Because I'll bring it up and show people what it is, right? So again, that's something I was going to talk about. So let's get back to one element of this, and I've got to go and now try and find where it was I put it, because I want to cover this off. I think it's important that people understand it. And rather using my words, I'll use the words of the secret people and bring it up there, because, and then if there's anything I need to add, I'll add it. But there it is on your screen, right? So if I bring that up on your screen, this is the secret people, defend the faith. I ain't really interested in this bishop geezer. He ain't a bit of me. But it must be remembered that the precedent was established by the 1688 Convention Parliament, whereby when a king breaks his solemn oath and breaches the original compact with the people, he renounces the trust that the people placed in him. That reasoned the men of the Convention Parliament is an abdication, right? So people should understand that this type of thing has happened before, the Glorious Revolution, and the reason why we got the Coronation Oath Act, and the reason why that is solemn, is because of the promise made then. Charles's family line was entrusted with the right to the throne purely on the basis of this reasoning, and as such, it is reasonable to assert that by the same president, they may lose it. Absolutely bang on. And I'm going to show you something else in a couple of minutes as well, right? William of Orange, having expressed his intention to preserve our religion, laws, and liberties, and agreeing to the conditions laid out in the Declaration of Rights and subsequently crowned King of England, that compact was subsequently expressed in various statutes to which all future monarchs were and are bound, right? 15th of February 1688. His Majesty's gracious answer to the declaration of both houses. My lords and gentlemen, this is certainly the greatest proof of the trust that you have in us that can be given, which is the thing that make us value it more, and we thankfully accept what you have offered. And as I had no other intention of coming hither than to preserve your religion, laws, and liberties, so you may be sure that I shall endeavour to support them, and shall be willing to concur in anything that shall be for the good of the kingdom, and to do all that is in my power to advance the welfare and glory of the nation. Declaration of Rights, 1688. And in there, it tells you all of that information. All right. So if you went across from that one, again, if you go and have a look at that, it gives you the information that you're there. But the Convention Parliament of 1688 and their grand vote of the vacancy of the throne resolved that King James abdicated by performance, right? Resolved that King James II, having endeavoured to subvert the constitution of the kingdom by breaking the original contract between king and people, and by the advice of Jesuits and other wicked persons, having violated the fundamental laws, and within himself out of the kingdom, hath abdicated the government and the throne, and thereby become vacant. The history and proceedings of the House of Commons of England, etc., Volume 2, 1742, page 203, right? Can you understand what's going on there? Right, so I'm going to make sure Let me push this back over so everyone understands what I am talking about. Copy the link. I will send this link out so you understand it, right? Prince Charles, there is a constitutional compact, right? A contract between the people, meaning us, the subjects, and himself. He has breached that. A breach of that compact is called perjuring your oath. And we have cut kings' heads off in the past for doing that, right? There are some people out there, mainly Americans, for some fucking strange reason, they're in love with the fucking monarchy, who think that the monarchy has been captured. Bollocks, right? There's no such thing as a captured monarchy. There's a monarchy who can't think for himself and he is being badly advised, right? I ain't got a problem with that. But they have to understand that they will take the consequences personally, right? And I personally believe that Prince Charles or King Charles, or whatever you want to describe him as, right, should pay the ultimate price for what he's done to the people. Now, what I'm going to do is show you something else. There's a lot more I can go into with that, but maybe that would be a fuller show. But I do want to show you something else if I can find it. And I bet you any money you like, I can't find it. Normally I can find it. Who sent it to me? There. Right. So I'm going to show you this one as well. Now, a particular barrister blocked me. All right. And before I share this with you, I'm going to talk to you about this. So this barrister and all barristers and solicitors, etc., use a particular analogy that Parliament is sovereign, right? And I'll say, no, it isn't. And the analogy they use is inherently racist, right? And they accept it. And that is that if Parliament was to create a law that all blonde-haired, blue-eyed babies should be put to death tomorrow, it would be perfectly lawful, right? And legal. And what I say is that's completely wrong, because it would be repugnant and against natural law and justice, and the courts would strike it down. For that reason, the common law will control it, right? And he said no. So what I did, because he said there's no such thing as an English constitution, or we haven't got a constitution, right? This particular barrister, it's quite well known, complete prick, right? Just to make sure you're aware of this guy. So what I did after this little Twitter spat, really polite. I was really polite, by the way. There was no trust me, I was polite, right? And I said to him, "Well, let's change the analogy. Let's change the analogy rather than have this racist analogy where blonde-haired, blue-eyed babies are put to death. Let's change the analogy to all gays. By the way, this geezer's bisexual or gay or whatever, right? Either way, he's not heterosexual." And I said, let's change it to that, right? So Parliament creates a law where all homosexuals or deviants of homosexuality are put to death. You'd be all right with that, all right? That's fully lawful, is it? And he blocked me, all right? So we've taken out the racist element, which is killing all blonde-haired, blue-eyed babies, right? Male babies as well. We're taking that out, and we put in another scenario, another analogy that he found repulsive, right? So repulsive that he blocked me, right? But he's the guy who kept telling everyone we haven't got a constitution, going on GB News, like giving it large, whoever he was, right? Wherever he was talking, and his name's Stephen Barrett, right? Highly promoted on YouTube, highly promoted on GB News, etc. Right? The difference between someone like me, right, who is a paralegal but a subject to the realm. So I look at the Constitution from our for our protections. I'm not working for the state in any way whatsoever. So this Stephen Barrett, he now says today or yesterday, under our constitution, so now he's admitting that we've got a constitution, which the king seems unwilling to obey. All right, so now you've got to obey the constitution, is it? We may remove a king or change the royal family if necessary. He's getting a bit brave, isn't he? Right? What was the old saying that I put out before? It was about patriots, and it was to do that. It's a brave man that stands up against tyranny as a patriot, and then everyone else joins later when you've done all the work, right? And pushing forward and pushing forward and pushing forward, which we all have, ain't just about me, right? But let me tell you something now. That's what happens. People like this stick their hands up, right? This dirty, no good beep of a barrister, right? He's probably had more people banged up through his incompetence, right, than anyone else. And it don't matter to him. It don't matter to him because he still goes home and fucks his boyfriend, basically, right? He doesn't care. He doesn't care about you. He doesn't care about normal, everyday geezers, right? And women. He's a fucking pervert. But he soon blocked me when we changed the analogy from a racist analogy, in other words, a racist analogy towards white people, right? And white babies. And then as soon as we changed it to homosexuals and perverted deviants, right? Then he gets the ump and blocks me. Just to make sure everyone, can you all see that? Do you all understand what I'm saying? Right? And there's other people out there just as bad. Black belt barrister, just as bad. Went out to China, married to a Chinese woman, telling everyone how wonderful the Chinese system is, right? And digital ID, and if you've got all this and you can do that, and then the police car pulled up as his video, and he said, I better switch this off in case they arrest me. Definitely something weird going on. Right, anyway, I've just shown you that. Is everyone... we had a king and a people united, we could remove this government overnight. Well, again, it's all the problems that we're getting out there. Burnham taking his orders from Klaus from his book, and again, I'll see something else today. Let me see if I can bring some of this up. I can go into more detail about Prince Charles or King Charles. I keep calling him Prince Charles. King Charles, even though he's not my king, right? They're just absolute wrong ones. So we need to find something else out there that I can show people, which I'm about to do. Let me see if I can get this other stuff up there. There is so much going on today, it's almost impossible to cover it all off. Let me have a look. Let me have a look. I need to go back and do that. Right, so we've gone into that. I'm going to show something else as well. So we've got that one. I do need to cover off. My finger keeps looking. Right, the other thing I wanted to briefly talk to you about was Lady Howe. In 2023, and it's to do with the English Bill of Rights. In 2023, myself and 4 members of the English Constitution Society attended a Selden Society conference in London at the Inns of Court, one of the Inns of Court, right? And it was all videoed, and they on microphone have the questions and answers all mic'd up, right? And in front of us, there was a Mohammedan lady that asked Lady Howe at the end of this conference, and I'll bring it up if you want to go and listen to the conference, but they've cut out all the questions and answers, right? There was two reasons for that. They've cut out because the Mohammedan solicitor in front of us with a hijab on said to Lady Howe, she said, when will Sharia law be part of English law proper? And Lady Howe said never, because the English Bill of Rights forbids it. Right? They've cut the whole thing. They also cut my question, and my question to Lady Howe was, who give you the right as the family court to have this amount of a single judge who had that amount of power over a family, more power than a parent or parents, and especially in life and death situations? And what I said is, there is another way of doing it. You could put those life and death situations, and I was particularly talking about switching off life support machines. It should go to a coroner's court in front of a jury, so the jury decides, and evidence can be put before a medically trained judge, and you can bring your own witnesses to say that you should or shouldn't be switching off the life support machine, and the jury makes a decision on it. And Lady Howe absolutely said no, right? And it's because they have, like the Star Chamber, they've clawed and clawed and clawed all of that power away from parents, because we're now living in a communist system where the state itself holds the power. A single judge is very similar to the Star Chamber. Just making sure I'm going through these things, because I said I wanted to briefly talk about these things. I want to talk about the difference. Did I bring that up? I don't know if I brought that up or not. I'm going to bring this one up now. The difference between a civil war. We're flying through these subjects, so I keep you interested. You should like this one. A civil war is an armed conflict occurring entirely within a single country between the established government and organised non-state factions competing for political control or independence. Conversely, a defensive war against invaders is an international interstate conflict where sovereign nations repel an external attack or occupation by another state, right? And the other state, basically, in what we're talking about, is Islam. So the key differences at a glance: a civil war, participants, internal factions fighting for government control or succession, right? Defensive war, distinct sovereign nations or allied coalitions, right? Now, currently, we've got a coalition with the United States of America. We could have a coalition with some of the European Union nations, namely Germany, because of what's happening with the invasion. Primary goal, civil war, overthrowing the state, political reform, or achieving autonomy. So if we was doing English independence full on, and then you've got defensive war, preserving territorial integrity, sovereignty, and national survival, which is what I believe England is now doing, right? Or we need to do. So it's a defensive war. It is not a civil war. Anyone who's talking civil war is lying, basically. Nature of the enemy. So under a civil war, it'd be fellow citizens, usurpers or rebels from a shared cultural background, right? But in a defensive war, they're foreign forces, invaders, clearly defined external aggressors. Would you agree that the people that are being allowed to cross the channel and I believe other elements are happening at the moment. So, for example, and people don't realise this, lots of flights are going into Southern Ireland, and lots of flights are going into Scotland, and the region of London. So each region currently is bringing in plane loads of these people, right? And they're being put up in various. That's why you're seeing the country being flooded. And what they're doing is they're going from Southern Ireland into Northern Ireland and crossing the St George's Channel, otherwise known as the Irish Sea, got renamed some time ago, which was again should never have happened, right? And they're flooding in that way. They're flying into both Glasgow, Edinburgh, Aberdeen, and other airports up there and coming over the border from Scotland, right? If you don't believe me, go and have a look at some of them trains and then coming this way. And then you've got the flights going into London where these people, so everyone's being told, look at the English Channel, look at and these boats coming across. You're not seeing all of these other routes coming in, right? And these leave to remain situations that we've got going on, literally is all of these people getting off of planes and flights. So is everyone sort of got an indication there of why what the key difference at a glance? So I'm going to say defensive war again. Distinct sovereign nations or allied coalitions. America's already offered to give us assistance because it knows it's under attack, and so are we. England is under attack, right? Preserving territorial integrity and sovereignty and national survival, right? That's a defensive war, and we're actually going to be fighting against the enemy who have positioned themselves in positions of authority. And they've done that from via the British Nationality Act and removing part of our constitution that protected us from that, right? So you're seeing history repeat itself, which I think is pretty damning. And then the last one there is foreign forces. Invaders clearly defined external aggressors. Do you all agree? You can disagree if you want. Foreign forces, invaders, clearly defined external aggressors. Do you believe that they are clearly defined external aggressors? And anyone converting to Islam and assisting with and assisting Islam are in effect collaborators. That's what's actually going on. Timbuktu should be illegals. Lionheart, we need to form an army on someone to train and need arms. Gary 69777, yes. How many other people out there? Absolutely yes. Just how? Let's have a look. We have been invading since 2014. We've been invaded well before then. This has gone on for a long time. So you've just had a look at that. Let me go and have a look. And we'll cover that one off. What I don't want to do is we've whizzed through this stuff. I can go back over some of it. You can tell me what you want me to go over. Let me have a quick look. I ain't got a clue who that is. Let me have a look. Right, but I do want to show you something else that's really important. I bet it's gone pear-shaped. I'm hoping, I don't want to go on that one. I want to go on That's not that one. I'm going to come back to that in a minute. But before we get on to that, why is it this keeps going off in the background? This, I don't know why that's doing that. But did everyone see? Does everyone know who Q is, by the way, and what Q is? And do you all understand that? Donald James Trump provides direct Q proof, right? Now he's either taking the mick or he's giving you a Q proof, right? But I do find it's very odd. The war is real. He fights for you, right? And the difference between the two people, but that same post that Donald J. Trump put out today was put out in 2020 by Q, right? Now, it's very unusual for anyone to use the same two photographs. Do you not agree? So you tell me what you think of that. It was in a queue today. Rupert will have the power. Charlie is very weak. He's not weak. He's just part of it. Andy Burnham and his Fabian comrades finish our country. The Fabian Society needs removing from all positions of power. I agree entirely. Grumpy Bear and Lenny Henry. Let me have a look at this. It's a Q proof. His people are all Jews. White Dragon, bit weird. JFK is still alive. Oh, right. Let me go and have a look at this one. So stop sharing that a second. I want to show you the next one. So I was going to go through all the Q stuff and start showing you about the communist side of it, right? And they've started to kick off in America saying this is all to do with communism. And President Trump is now saying to everyone, we've got to get these communists out. They've got to go, right? And literally that is what they're doing, right? So let me go and find my one that I sent out earlier on. I think it was Southampton, because this is important as well. I started the show off with this. I'm going to have to loosen this up a bit. For some reason, I'm feeling really hot. I don't know why. Let me see if I can find the actual. That's really annoying. I had it earlier on. Why, what? I mean, I had it there. It's gone completely. It's gone. Right, let me see if I can find it again. This is really annoying. Let me see if I can find it back on here. There's another one I want to show you as well. So I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll bring that up because I need to be able to show you that one as well. The basis of it is, I think I've already mentioned it at the beginning, was the ex-para. I think I mentioned it. Oh, for fuck's sake. It might even be. I'm going to show you this one as well in a couple of minutes. Let me get back onto there. Right, let's get very, very quickly, I'll have a chat about this, right? The ex-para that got, do you all remember him being assaulted badly with the police shields and smashed to bits and all that? And then they arrested him for assaulting a police officer, right? Well, he didn't do a Lucy Colony, right? Who ended up getting 3 years because she listened to very bad advice from solicitors and barristers who are part of the process and the system. They're basically communists, right? Instead, he kept his mouth shut, no comment, right? He then got remanded into custody, kept his head down, didn't say a word, still didn't say anything to the police and said no comment. He then went, I think about a week or 2 weeks later for bail, but he applied to the Crown Court for bail. Like, there's a process. You go to a higher judge. And he then got bailed. And then today he went to Southampton Crown Court, and the Crown Prosecution Service offered no evidence against him, right, and said that the evidential bar hasn't been met. We've got no evidence that he's a police officer, right? So the judge found him not guilty. And now he can use all of that footage, all of that to sue the individual police constables. That's what he should be doing, not just suing the chief constable. The geezers kneeing him in the head and in the face, the people smashing him with their shields, all of that was unlawful, right? It's unlawful violence towards him, and he should be personally suing them people, right? And he needs to do it. He needs to do it the right way. He's got a little bit of time to sort it out, but he needs to do it properly. That's the main one. I could probably show you. I think you all know what I was talking about. If you don't, you will in a couple of minutes. Southampton. And then I'll take you on to another one. Southampton Times. I think that's the one I wanted to look at. Southampton Times. There it is. So I found the one I wanted to look at, right? I wanted this particular one to show you. Here it goes. There it is. This is the one I wanted. So, former soldier Matt Styler cleared of assaulting a police officer during protests in Southampton following the death of Henry Nowak, right? Matt Styler, 50, a former parachute regiment soldier from Gosport, was found not guilty at Southwark Crown Court after prosecutors said the evidential test had not been met and offered no further evidence. Judge William Mousley, KC, King's Counsel, formally recorded a verdict on not guilty. Styler had previously denied the allegation and had been held in custody before being granted bail, right? And this is him being, I'm going to bring it up on the screen.
They got one, they're pinning someone down over there. I'll tell you what, he's doing it like on fire. Boy, they're going to fucking kill that geezer in a minute.
Now, a normal, everyday member of the public witnesses that, shouts out, they're going to kill that geezer in a minute, right? And again, right, so I'm being... He did everything right. He kept his mouth shut. He said no comment. He didn't speak to, as far as I know, to any of their barristers and solicitors, right? Meaning the police ones. who were part of the process system to lock it away. He didn't do a Lucy Connolly, right? He kept his mouth shut. He took a bit of a lay down. It's better to take a bit of a lay down than do 3 years, trust me. He's come out, he said not guilty. I want a jury trial because that's triable either way. So he says, I want a jury trial and I'm pleading not guilty. CPS then come along and say, they give him bail a couple of weeks ago. They look at the evidence again and they go, no, there's no evidence he did it. In fact, it's fairly obvious the police brutalised him for no reason whatsoever. He was just sitting on a wall, right? And they've attacked him, literally attacked him, right? Every single one of them police officers, one needs suing, right? And two, every one of them needs to go to prison for a fucking long time. And the only way we'll ever get justice in this country is when you start standing up for yourself and doing exactly that. If he lets them get away with that, right, they'll just keep doing it and keep doing it. That's why Charlie Staples is still pushing forward. Let me have a look. Lucy Connolly was a crisis actor from what I saw. I'll tell you what, some people have said that. Nothing surprises me anymore. Nothing surprises me. I wouldn't trust anyone. But the point being, right, he's gone for a jury trial. He's pleading not guilty, right? And they didn't want this getting in front of a jury. They knew if they had put this in front of a jury, the jury would have found him not guilty unanimously, right? They couldn't afford for that to happen again, right? Always go for a jury trial. Never let them persuade you otherwise. Let me make sure I've put all this information up there. Right, now I'm going to go back and show you something else. So, have I covered that off? I'm going to cover one other thing off, then I'm going to get back to Mark Collette because I think it's important that I cover that off. But I'm going to cover this off as well. I can talk a load more. I think I'll have to do a whole show on Prince Charles and the Coronation Oath Act and the Declaration of Rights and the Accession Oath. And again, I want to make it clear that as far as I'm concerned, as a subject to the realm, King Charles has already abdicated, right? Because he's breached his oath. He's perjured his oath. He needs to go, right? But this is something that artist Gooner, if you don't follow him, you need to go and follow him. He does some excellent artistry. Exactly. So what he's saying, so I just heard the Fabian communist Andy Burnham speak. For your information, English exit, he sent this to me. This image literally is his intention. He intends to dissolve the English nation. Bye English shires and counties. Hello 9 British Euro Soviet regions. I English Weathern ask, did you, England, vote for this? Are you even aware, right, of what's going on? The solution is the English Constitution, and that is what they're doing, right? They're dividing England up into regions. They've already succeeded with London. London is already a region, right? Scotland's a region. Northern Ireland's a region. Wales is a region. They're not nations, they're regions, right? And I've been telling people for years that's exactly what they've done, and there that information is. And then underneath that, so then what I've written and sent that out is exactly Trump got rid of NAFTA, so the North American Free Trade Agreement, because it was the equivalent of the Acts of Union, right? And now seeks to destroy the FEMA regions of the USA, because what they did via the Patriot Act, they created Department of Homeland Security. Patriot Act come from 9/11, right? But Department of Homeland Security then created the FEMA regions. It was nothing to do with this nonsense that everyone was talking about body bags and all this stuff. They were administrative regions, and they took 5 states, right? Pulled 5 states into a single region, give that region a capital, right? And then got rid of the states. And then they had 10 regions of the United States of America. That's what FEMA it is all about. And Trump is going to dismantle that, right? Destroy FEMA regions of the USA. The destruction of England and its common law constitution, and the settlement of the Glorious Revolution was always the intention of the communists and the Marxists, right? That was always what they intended to do, and they're now pushing forward with that. And it's been their intention for centuries. So there's that image, and then someone else come along and said, Paul Weston is someone I know from Twitter, and he says exactly so, Graham. I note the fragrant Shabana Mahmood is behind the streamlining of Britain's 43 police forces into 10, 11, 12 mega forces, which one assumes will fit nicely into the once planned EU regions of Britain. They've already succeeded with the Northern Ireland, with a single state or regional force. They've already succeeded with Scotland. What they've done with Scotland is they've shut down the constabularies and got it's basically a police state or a regional state police force, right? And what they're intending to do is to do that all over England. England won't exist anymore at all. Gone forever. And that's what they're doing. So I've said, yep, devolution is another name for regionalisation. Scotland, Northern Ireland, Wales and London are already conquered, already regions. And what they're doing is flooding the country into them regions, bringing in them people. What you're seeing come across the English Channel is a fraction of what's actually happening. And trust me, it's going to get a lot worse. Let me stop sharing that a second. And let me see if I can go and find this for you. Let's see if I can find this for you. There it is there. I might even follow him for the crap. Film review. So what I'm going to do is, so if anyone would like to go and watch this, let me see if I can find the share button. Go and do the share button and put it out there. Paste. There you go. And what I'm going to do is bring it up, show it out there. I might even stick that out there. Let me go and put it on there. Take that off. Let me have a quick look at that one. Film review. Right, just to make sure, I'm not into, in any way or form, Sir Oswald Mosley, or Nazis, or fascists. I'm not into any of that, right? What spoils this is this. An Englishman shouldn't be given a choice between fascism and communism. We're English. We have the English common law, and we reject both, right? We're English. And that's exactly what Donald Trump is doing, right? Fascism is not right wing, it's left wing. And people need to understand that. But talking to this guy,
film, but I did also very small movies.
He comes on, and I like the fact that he's explained who he is. He explains why he's done the film. And it's a really good interview, to be honest with you. He's just sitting there talking to people and just saying, well, that's what I've done. And he tells us during that interview that he said that the film would do really well in England. At the screening, he had a screening somewhere, and he said there was a British like film promoter, like whoever they are that own and operate cinemas, and they really wanted it. And he said, so a few days later, I said, well, so what's the deal? And the bloke said, I can't show it. I've spoken to a number of different people, and they've said we're not showing it. We won't show that video, right? He said he knows that it will be massively. Everyone would go and watch it if it was in the cinema. I mean, I've got a cinema not far from me. I think it's a private cinema, and I may approach them and see if I can get it put on privately. And the problem with doing that is you've then got to try and advertise the fact that it's on when it's on and get it out there for everyone to go and have a look at it. But at least he's out there. Do you agree? So all I'm doing is putting that out there. If anyone wants to go and have a listen to him, and he's speaking to these people, Mark Collette, and who's the guy he was working with? Someone else. But again, all I'm saying to you is, I just so patriotic or alternative. I like a lot of what they say, but when they started walking around as Nazis and having a Nazi lead up with a trench coat on, with his belt done up and Leadale, and he's got a tash, and it's some fucking Australian crank corporal. He weren't even English, right? And you just think, what's this all about? Do you know what I mean? That's not serious. You can't be serious if you really. We're not about the 1920s, 1930s, 1940s now, right? This is 2026, right? We've learned from the past that these things will come back and bite us in the arse, but you don't have to dress like that. You don't have to dress like a Nazi, right? Or pretend to be a Nazi, or walk around with a like a little tash. Well, but it just don't work. It don't work for me anyway. I just think that's just not serious, right? And again, at the other end of the scale, you've got Restore Britain, who I've got a lot of respect for what they're doing. You go to some of their meetings, and I'm seeing other people saying the same thing. He said they're sitting there in a pub having a few beers, having shouting and hollering, and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. There's no structure to them. There's nothing. They're like, and they're not even serious at that level. That's dangerous. It's even more dangerous with Reform, by the way, because they are organised and they ain't on our side. So someone needs to do something a bit lively. I think we're going to see if we can start organising in Devon, but under the English Constitution Party. I can't see anyone else, not even Restore, being too sensible here. That's my opinion, and it is only my opinion. And again, we won't get any help. We won't get any. So you're not really going to get anywhere. We ain't got millions of pounds, but what I've seen that is in place here ain't nowhere near good enough. And I can't just surrender. Jack Boo, yeah, sorry, I was agreeing. I don't either. He stood out like a control whatever. Who did? Right, what else was the part that I was going to show? So I have briefly showed that to you, and Mark Collette. The Lady Howe one, I think, is really important. I think a few people should write to the Selden Society and say where is the questions and answers from that particular thing. let's see if I can bring it up on the screen for you, because I can show you which one it was. Let's see if I can go to the history, just to let you know. We do go. Let's see if I can find it. There it is. Is that the one? Yeah, that is it. Right. We was trying to think where I was. I think we might have been on the right hand side. We was on the right hand side. We're out of shot. But Brett was there. I was there. Colin was there. Colin's wife was there. Val was there. There was a few of us there, right? I'm just going to make sure I bring this up. But they cut the questions. This is on the inner temple, but it's the Selden Society that put this on, right? And it was it said 299 views. The point is, you got Lady Howe that was talking about the law, etc. He was talking about the Constitution. There was a number of judges there.
Unless it was proved beyond reasonable doubt that they were not. And this meant that he could decide how the children were to be brought up, with whom they should live, and he could appoint a guardian to make those decisions after he died. In return, the common law did recognise that he had a duty to protect and maintain his children, but it provided no effectual machinery for enforcing those duties. The Court of Chancery did, on very rare occasions, decline to enforce the father's common law rights. The most notable example was the case of Shelley and Westbrook. The poet Shelley deserted his first wife and their children and went off with Mary Wollstonecraft Godwin, the author of Frankenstein. But when his wife committed suicide, he demanded the children back. This was refused on the grounds that he was an immoral atheist and proposed to bring up the children that way. But refusing to enforce the father's rights was very different from giving the mother any rights. As Caroline Norton, granddaughter of the playwright Richard Brinsley Sheridan, found out the hard way. Caroline was a great beauty and society hostess.
So you went on along, but when you get to the end of this, they cut out the questions and answers. Right now, this was the question. So we go to these events, right, and we sit in and we listen. We also mingle and have chats with judges there, and they know who we are and what we are, right? Meaning the English Constitution Society, right? But the most important part of this is every one of these Selden Society lectures, and they have them, I think, quarterly and yearly. So they have a big one yearly, but then they have little quarterly ones. All of the questions and answers are always part of the video after. This is the only one where they've stopped it, right? And I believe it was because the Mohammedan solicitor woman asked Lady Howe, when will Sharia law be part of English law? And Lady Howe said never, because it's against the English Bill of Rights, right? That's the first thing. They've still got that on record. And the second part was that I asked the question, that why is it that family courts have got all this power and they shouldn't have? The power should go to a jury, and preferably via a coroner's court where the judge is medically trained and can hear evidence, and then the final decision is with the jury. And she said that'll never happen. When we won't allow it, basically, which I thought was a pretty. She's not. Any other questions? Chapter 54, local militia groups. Let me have a look. So there is a lot going on at the moment. But getting back, I'm going to probably finish. What time are we on now? 9 o'clock. I think I should go back and talk a bit about all this. You got to remember, so someone's just spoke a little bit about corruption. The only way of dealing with corruption is to do it the old way, right? And that is, we know that they've acted corruptly, we need to hang them. Subversion of the English Constitution is a hanging offence. It's as simple as that. And unless there is that serious repercussion for doing it, committing treason, then you're going to allow it in the future, and we've got to put a stop to it completely. Let me just make sure I go back to this other thing. I think I've put it out there. It's basically this one. So what I want to do, I just want to finish off on this because I do think it's important that people understand you are now getting President Trump actually putting this stuff out on his Truth Social. I can't see him being on a wind up because I am seeing other things happening, right? So today there was a massive case in the US in the Supreme Court, which I mentioned earlier on, where the Supreme Court have said that the President of the United States of America can sack these people in positions. Very similar to the civil service, they have an entrenched group of people that are not elected, right? That are in positions and they continue and they go against what the president and in fact what the people want, right? If it was down to me now, I'd scrap the royal family completely. The common law can give you a republic, or so a constitutional republic. That the important part is the Constitution. A constitutional republic or a constitutional monarchy. United States of America is not, and I'll repeat this, it is not a constitutional democracy. There is a big difference. A constitutional democracy means a democratic republic. That is not what the United States of America is. It is not a democratic republic. That is another word for socialism. That is another word for a communist state. That is another word for a Roman law jurisdiction. That is not what the United States of America is. The United States of America is a constitutional republic. And England, not Britain, England is a constitutional monarchy. The fact that we have any element of democracy, that democracy never overrides our constitution that's been put in place by our ancestors, right? So I just want everyone to fully understand what I'm saying. So there's lots of things that are now going on. This particular was at post 4205, and the war is real. He fights for you, and who they're talking about is Donald Trump, right? So it's showing you a comparison of Donald Trump that went to one of the best military academies in the United States of America, had an IQ of somewhere like 180, right? Instead of going into the military, he went into business. I think he's proved himself in business, right? And then you've got Barack Obama, right, smoking a joint, yeah. The two people are miles apart on what they actually believe in, right? So I'm just going to bring that down a second. But I do think it's important that people understand the difference. Let me see if I can find for you, if I can find it. And let's see if I can bring it up. Like, more and more people are looking at this again. Don't forget, I covered it off quite a bit a few years ago. I've got a funny feeling saying it's going to be popping up again. But if I was to go into there, and there's a particular video that people should go and watch. It's called what's the film called? Not the Quash.
Squall.
Huh?
Squall.
The Squall. Well done, Janet. Right, so let me see if I can put this up there. Let's see how many times this come up, right? Without you collectively, there would have been no way to bypass their control. They weren't about to repeat the mistakes of 2016. You are what matters most. United, not divided. And that's what I don't like about what's going on in England, right? You've got all these people dividing you. You've got these people that are walking around with, jackboots on, but trying to persuade people that the other option is fascism when it isn't, right? The biggest option to all of us is the English common law. United, not divided. You awake and thinking for yourself is their greatest fear. It's exactly right. Welcome to the digital battlefield. Where we go one, we go all, right? And again, if you go back and you have a look at all these, there's loads of them. There's a particular one that I'm looking for. There's loads of these posts. Which is the one that I'm looking for now? Let's see if I was looking at the Western. I don't think Windsor Castle would be on there. No, it's not. Let me have a quick look and see what else I can find. Why would anyone want fascism? Fascism means an authoritarian rule, right? That's no different to communism. It's not what the English do. Music fan, democracy is mob moral. No, democracy is made moral. I absolutely agree. It's two wolves and a lamb deciding what they're going to have for dinner, right? Except our way of doing it, the lamb's got constitutional rights. They're just not being enforced. And what we've got to do is start saying to people, listen, these judges are corrupt to the core. We need to take out these judges. And the thing is, it's going to be happening. But but people need to start looking properly about what's going on. What's the other one I was going to show you before I did anything else? Let's see if I can bring that up. Let's see if I can find it. And I want everyone to understand. Let's go for history. Let's see if I can find it. Sarah Rogers, 2026. Now they got all these people talking about I wonder if I can bring that up on here. I looked up the I'm not even sure if that video is on there. Where's the video? Where can I go and find that video again? There was a video about the squall. People need to be looking at this stuff. I don't know. I had it earlier. It's gone missing. Right. Any questions from anyone? What I don't want to do is be trying to look at things and be driving you all mad. What was the film called? Let's see if I can. It was a film. That was just a trailer, though, wasn't it? I wanted the whole film. 1996. 2 years ago. 36,000 views. Let's see if that was. I'll see if I can put the whole film on. I think this is the right film. I'll give you a link to it. That is it. I think I've got it there. Right, so if I show you just a very, very, very brief bit of it. There it is on the thing.
It's Shakespeare, Todd. The Tempest, Act 1, Scene 1. I suggest you read it.
Yeah, and why's that?
Because it's the song you'll all be singing when we put out to sea. Arbidar.
Arbidar. Oh, geez, man, I forgot about him.
So it is a good film. It involves a trial at the end, but you'll sort of get the hang of what the film's about. And Q told everyone to go and watch it. But there's lots and lots of things that I've gone through tonight. I don't want to be going on much longer. But if you want me to do more about the Constitution and the Constitution and let's have a look. Let's have a look and see if I can find this. I need to go and have a quick look at this. Let me have a look. Right, let me have a look. Whatever that one was, it's not socialism, it's communism. Yeah, let's have a look at this. All right. And then I'm going to show you something else briefly. Let me push this out there.
Well, I think it's a big...
POTUS, it's not socialism, it's really communism. They use the word social democrat because it sounds so nice, but it's really communism you're talking about. I think it's the biggest threat to our nation there is, maybe since our founding, right? So what I'm trying to say is that President Trump absolutely gets it.
Well, I think it's a big threat to our nation, actually, because it's not socialism, it's really communism. They use the word social democrat because it sounds so nice, but it's really communism you're talking about. I think it's the biggest threat to our nation there is, maybe since our founding. That includes World War I, World War II, September 11th. It includes the Pearl Harbor attack. I think this is the biggest threat to our nation. People will smile when I say that, but the smart people are going to say, you know, he's probably right. It's basically introducing communism into the United States of America. There's never been anything so dangerous. Well, I think it's a big threat to our nation.
Yeah, right. So he gets it. That's the point. He gets it completely. But just to make sure you've all got this one, let me see if I can go back to my profile and see if I can find this for you. Let me have a look. There's a particular there. Right, so I'm going to bring this up. Right, so I'm going to finish the show with this because I think it's important that people see this. Right, so I have again, Juicy and Lucy made this stuff up on there for us, which I think is fantastic. Right, not the British, made by the English, and it's got stamped English on it. Right. Observance of Due Process of Law 1368. That's where the United States of America gets its due process from, right? So if you go out to America, they'll talk to any lawyer will say due process, and if something goes out of due process, it's null and void. Anything that they've done against you, and it says in there, and if anything from henceforth be done to the contrary, it will be made null and void in law and holden for error. Then there was the Bill of Rights, again, not the British, made by the English. This is all English law, right? Then not the British, the Acts of Settlement 1700, right? Loads of protections on there. And really important is to understand the long title. An act for further limitation of the Crown and better securing the rights and liberties of the subject. Limitation of the Crown is important of this. Securing our rights and liberties is really important. Why is it? Because this document literally says, with the Bill of Rights and the Coronation Oath Act, you can't do what you're doing, King Charles, right? You've now perjured your oath. Right? The king is limited. They can't go against the Constitution and they can't go against their oath. That's why this is crucially important. Habeas corpus, an act for better securing the liberty of the subject, and this was 1679, and for prevention of imprisonment beyond the seas. All right, made by the English. Habeas Corpus Act. Right, the Petition of Rights, 1627. This is where you get no taxation without representation, right? And from the Magna Carta, but this is what they actually brought in, right? 1627, the petition exhibited to His Majesties by the Lord Spiritual, Temporal and Commons in this present Parliament assembled as concerning divers rights and liberties of the subject with the King's Majesty's royal answer thereunto in full Parliament, right? Made in it, it's all English. None of this is British. Crown and Parliament Recognition Act, an act for recognising King William and Queen Mary and for avoiding questions touching the acts made in the Parliament assembled in Westminster the 13th day of February 1688. People don't realise how powerful this is. Magna Carta 1297, right? Coronation Oath Act 1688, right? It's all there and it's all English. It's not British, it's English. British didn't come about until 1948. Does everyone understand that clearly? That's it. I am going to say good night, God bless, and don't forget what I believe in. The Constitution is the solution. And I hope, although it's been jam-packed going through these different things, so much has gone on over the weekend. We just got to keep pushing forward. And you're the people doing it. I'm just a mouthpiece, but more and more people are talking about the Constitution, the Constitution, the Constitution. And let me just make sure before I go, you get what I mean, right? That Coronation Oath Act 1688 is exceptionally important. So was the Bill of Rights, right? So was the Parliament and Crown Recognition Act. So was the Acts of Settlement, right? The Crown is limited. They can't go against their oath, and yet they're doing it now, right? But the people don't know. That's it. Good night, tiddly poo and all that.